It is Top 5 Tuesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We're coming to you from the Lee Company Studios right here on West 7th Street in Muletown. Excited to be with you here for the next couple of hours talking about sports of local, regional, and national impact. So it's going to be fun, as it always is right here. Wade, happy Tuesday.
Good to be with you on this Tuesday here. Yeah, we've got a lot to get into as a big baseball segment is coming up later in this program and a little bit later on this evening as well.
Oh, absolutely. There is a lot of, it's just that time of year, I guess. Baseball, football is going on. The WNBA is in its postseason. College football is in full swing. But don't forget about baseball. There's some stuff that's going to be decided here over the next, 6 days, 5 days, 6?
Mm-hmm.
6?
This is just the appetizer, for what's to come, because this is the time of the year when folks really kind of get dialed in, and the games just take on just a crazy significance.
Getting dialed in, that's absolutely right. And we're hoping a certain team about 4 hours south of here is dialed in for the next few days as well. We'll talk more about that, obviously, later in the show. In the second hour today, we will have the Blue Raider voice, Chip Walters. And when I confirmed with Chip yesterday, he wasn't very perky. Hopefully he got some rest, because apparently homecoming weekend kind of took its toll on the Blue Raider voice, but hopefully he will be in full swing this afternoon when we get a hold of him at the top of the 3 o'clock hour. In our next segment, we will be joined by Greg Gaston of Sports 56 WHBQ out of Memphis, because I guess it was right as we went on the air yesterday, the University of Memphis made an announcement regarding its athletic program and its conference affiliation. So we're going to talk a little bit more with Greg about that and the impact of that announcement. So looking forward to that. As you know, conference realignment just continues to be a thing.
Yeah, just when you think you've got it all figured out,
Nope. If you think you've got it all figured out, you're either fooling yourself or you're trying to fool somebody else. But no, nobody's got this thing figured out. And I think it's going to be like that for a while.
Yep, certainly feels that way.
Again, we will be talking some baseball later in the show. We're going to talk a little NFL, obviously, talk a little college football, a little WNBA. And again, there's plenty to talk about on all of those fronts. So stick with us. It's going to be fun. That's what we're looking. Oh, and it is Top 5 Tuesday, presented by Mid-South 5 Fitness. Wade and I will be giving you our wildest football finishes. And this was kind of a Wade brainstorm. What did I miss over the week? Is this in reference to Baylor, Colorado?
Hey, the Hail Mary.
Okay.
Colorado turns back the clock and does it once again. And this time,
goodness gracious, that's right.
And this time they also get the win, and they're 3-1. I mean, crazy as it sounds.
I guess Colorado and Hail Marys kind of resonate with a Michigan fan, right?
Michigan is officially off the hook. The crazy part is that was not the finish. They had to go on and do the rest of the deed. But poor Baylor, back-to-back Hail Marys after the first one was waved off by Colorado, so they had to go in, and the legend of Shador grows. Maybe right on into two-tone blue next year, some would say.
Did he tap his watch out?
The great meme was at the end of the game, they asked again, hey, did we play the fight song or did we play Shador's song? I mean, that was the question that was begged, as they rushed the field. Rushed the field after beating Baylor. I mean, Colorado is Colorado, and it is a wild place.
Well,
but that was their inspiration.
I think for Colorado, with all of the ups and downs that they have gone through under Coach Prime.
Even before.
Well, certainly before, but yeah. So, I mean, I'm not necessarily shocked that they rushed the field.
They rushed the field. The game was not over. They took them back off the field, and then they rushed it again. That's how excited they were after the Big 12 win as they rejoined that conference.
Yeah, folks talk about act like you've been there, but what if you're not?
Hey, it's been a long time since they've been there. You are correct on that for sure.
Let's go ahead without any further ado and give the people yesterday's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the Rundown.
Buckle up, folks, to the rundown we go. We start off with volleyball action from last night where Columbia took care of Battle Creek 3-0. It was Culleoka on top of Hampshire 3-1 was your final there. Loretto takes care of Spring Hill 3-0. Also a 3-0 win for Central Magnet out of Murfreesboro versus Marshall County. Middle Tennessee Christian 3, Riverdale 0. Lots of sweeps last night, including Eagleville, who took care of Rockvale in straight sets. It was also Siegel 3, Cascade 0. Siegel played an additional match 3-0 there versus Harpeth Hall. And Summertown defeats Lawrence County 3-1. And Franklin Christian closes us out last night 3-0 versus Zion Christian.
Tough night for Lawrence County because on the pitch it was Giles County 8, Lady Wildcats nothing. STEM Academy doubles up Glencliff 4-2. Hillsborough with a 4-0 win over Good Pasture. This was a close one. Valor Collegiate 1. Grace Christian out of Franklin nothing. Hunters Lane with a 7-0 win over Stratford. Loretto and Richland play to a scoreless draw. That had to be exciting. Hume Fog 7, St. Cecilia 0. Station Camp 9, Greenwood, Kentucky 0. White House Heritage 2, Cheatham County 0. That does it for our, no. One more. Major League Baseball action. Seattle opens its series with the Astros with a 6-1 victory, closing that gap in the American League American League West to 4 games.
Down to 4 there. Could get tighter. We'll see how tonight goes. On to our schedule for tonight. Columbia Academy and Providence Christian are going to play a volleyball match, and that match will begin at 5:45. Also at 5:45, you can see Middle Tennessee Christian, who's at University School of Nashville. 6 p.m. first serves between Riverdale at Blackman, Murfreesboro Central Magnet, who's at Cascade, Spring Hill at Columbia, Giles County at Community tonight, Moore County taking on Eagleville. It'll be Santa Fe at East Hickman, Culleoka traveling to Forest, Zion Christian at Lancaster Christian, Battle Creek at Marshall County, Perry County at Mount Pleasant, Rockvale at Oakland tonight, Gallatin at Portland, Laverne at Smyrna, Loretto at Summertown this evening, Lawrence County traveling to Tullahoma, Stewart's Creek is on the road at Wilson Central. Start time unknown, but we do have a match listed between Ezel Harding, who is at Nashville Christian.
On the pitch tonight or this evening, depending, 4:30, Hunters Lane travels to McGavock. At 5 o'clock, Mount Juliet Christian. Mount Juliet Christian and Ezel Harding are both at Donaldson Christian at 5 o'clock. Donaldson Christian is a little outgunned in this one, I would dare say.
Yep.
Friendship Christian is at Davidson at 5. Also at 5, Glencliff hosting Republic. Cane Ridge is at Lawson. Blackman travels to Murfreesboro Central. Hume Fog is at University School of Nashville. Overton goes to Antioch. At 5:30, Kirkwood hosts Clarksville Northeast. Clarksville Academy is at Nashville Christian. 6 o'clock, first touches for Richland at Battle Creek. East Hickman at Cheatham County. Cornersville hosting Culleoka. Ravenwood traveling to Franklin. Franklin Road Academy is at Grace Christian of Franklin at 6. Also at 6, Dixon County is at Kenwood. Lawrence County hosts Columbia Academy. Smyrna goes to Lebanon. McEwen is at Montgomery Central. Station Camp hosts Macon County. Brentwood goes to Summit. Middle Tennessee Christian is at Webb School. And Liberty Creek is at White House Heritage.
On to the rest of our soccer scoreboard schedule for tonight, that is. 6:30 p.m., BGA will travel to CPA. East Robertson will be at Creekwood. Warren County traveling to Spring Hill tonight. At 7 o'clock, you can catch Page, who's at Centennial. Springfield is at Clarksville. Wilson Central at Cookville. Beach traveling to Gallatin tonight. Columbia Central coming down to Giles County. It'll be West Creek at Henry County at 7 p.m. Stewart's Creek at Laverne. Martin Luther King at Merrill Hyde. Independence traveling to Nolensville. Tullahoma at Riverdale. Harpeth at Rossview. And Greenbrier closing us out at White House at 7. All of those, a big old check before you get to the ballpark because it is looking yucky with severe weather in and around Middle Tennessee. So check on that. Major League Baseball action for tonight. The Mets and the Braves. Ever heard of them? They're going to play a big series tonight at 6:20. First game and first pitch come your way at 6:20 on Bally Sports South. Mariners at the Astros at 7:10. Game can be seen on local television. WNBA playoff action. These are game twos tonight as the Liberty will host the Dream at 6:30. Can be seen on ESPN. And the Aces will host the Storm to follow, scheduled for 8:30, also on ESPN. That concludes our WNBA and MLB schedule for tonight. That concludes our schedule at whole for tonight. And ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the Tuesday Rundown.
Your top story brought to you, as always, by Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch items available from 11 a.m. till 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. And yay, the Titans are not alone at the bottom of the NFL.
Oh, man, misery loves company. And woo-wee. The race for the worst record is on. There are several contenders now.
And a couple of contenders that weren't expected.
At least one for sure.
Oh, yeah, for sure, yes. And both of them dropped games number 3 or losses number 3 in front of a kind of sort of national audience, I guess. I mean, Jacksonville loses 47-10 to Buffalo in Monday night action last night. Also, Cincinnati falls to, I almost said the other word, to Washington.
The football team, correct.
WFT, excuse me, the Washington football team. Yeah, man, that Buffalo game was never close.
Yeah, Mark and I were checking our scores kind of as the Giles County beatdown versus Lawrence County was underway last night. And, yeah, the climb for Buffalo just continued to get higher and higher as Josh Allen, we think of him as such a great scorer in terms of his running ability. He didn't even have to rush for any scores last night. They let Cook do the work, and they let Allen throw it deep. Coleman, I think maybe his first touchdown pass, maybe his second, the young rookie there. They've kind of developed into a little bit of a wagon in the AFC East, and it's going to be fun to watch as that season continues for them.
I mean, you've got Coleman, but you've also got Khalil Shakir just running loose throughout the secondary. And I've never heard of this guy before last night. But they threw for 247 yards and 4 touchdowns before halftime.
Yeah, Jacksonville was in no shape. They looked real bad by all accounts last night.
And, as much as the quarterback here in Nashville is drawing attention, the quarterback situation in Jacksonville is starting to get a little interesting.
You feeling a change?
I don't know that there's going to be I don't know that they can make a change. I mean, they just signed him to a $275 million extension. I mean,
I was going to say, it could be worse if you're a Titans fan. You could be locked into Levis for the next 6 years.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, I don't know what they're going to do. He threw for 59 yards and a pick in the first half, and it never got any better. But, yeah, that's a tough night for Jacksonville. Again, tough night for Cincinnati as well, 38-33. They fall to Washington in a matchup of 2 former Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks. One looks significantly better than the other.
Man, Jaden Daniels, I didn't get to catch any of this game either, but the very, very end, but the post game, everybody was just gushing about the performance for Daniels. Throws his first touchdown to the offensive lineman. We got a pick 6 last night, and Scott goes in for his touchdown. And they interviewed Daniels after the game, and, man, he didn't really give a great answer in terms of, you wanted more, but he toed the company line, and he said, hey, everybody else around me made things easy. I thought we played well as a team and, made my job easy. And so Daniels, well, his stat line was something crazy, right? He was like 20 of 23. He had more touchdowns than incompletions, I think was the final. Yeah, 21 of 23, 2 touchdowns. So he had the same number of touchdowns that he had incompletions. Also ran for a score. I mean, they looked good last night, the Commanders did, who are 2-1 in a very topsy-turvy NFC East at the moment.
Washington converted 3 4th downs last night. That's That's pretty solid. Here's what else is solid. They went all night last night without a punt or a turnover. Second game in a row that they've done that. First time in the Super Bowl era that a team has gone back-to-back games without a punt or turnover.
I did see that as well. First game, because the Bengals did the same thing. They didn't punt or didn't turn it over. First game since 1940 that neither team had a punt or turnover. So on one hand, I'm really disappointed I missed that because nobody wants to see the punts and the turnovers. You know, they mess with the flow of the game. Just two dudes gunslinging. Chase had a monster night. Burrow had a massive night with 3 touchdowns and 330 yards almost. Kind of an old school shootout, and the Commanders end up edging the Bengals, who are now 0-3.
Absolutely. Jalen Daniels has had back-to-back NFL games where his team scored on every drive, excluding kneel downs. Brady, Breeze, Manning, and Mahomes combined did it twice in their careers. He's done it twice in his first 3 games. Those guys did it twice in 1,094 starts, including the postseason. That's, I mean, I don't really even have a word for what that is, but it kind of whets your appetite for what's next for that young man.
Yeah, funny you say that because everybody last night, both Joe Buck and Scott Van Pelt made the point several times. They were like, dude, it's only week 3, so we have to really contain ourselves and pump the brakes. Actually, it was Troy Aikman that said this. He said, but you have to be impressed with what you've seen from Jaden Daniels thus far.
Yeah, imagine when he figures out what he's doing.
I mean, or imagine, the only real concern is my man weighs 140 pounds. I mean, he is built like a twig. Kevin Durant out there throwing the football, basically.
He's a little light.
But other than that, he has looked fantastic. And the Commanders, kind of like the Texans last year, although jury still even potentially out because Stroud didn't look great this week, but they feel like they maybe have won the quarterback lottery 3 weeks into the season amongst this year's class thus far.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return to the Lee Company studios, we will be joined by Sports 56 WHBQ's Greg Gaston out of Memphis. Come back. Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
So Busy Bee is a very close-knit family. We fight just like every family does. We have arguments, but we always come out with a solution to the problems. We don't just fight about what we want, we fight about what customers need. We want to make sure that every customer we go to is more than satisfied. And that doesn't just start whenever we show up at their door, that starts when we show up every day at work. We want to make sure that we are serving our customers to the best of our ability.
He shoots, and he scores!
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers, putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Welcome back to Top 5 Tuesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton along with Wade Neely, and we are joined now from the Bluff City by Sports 56 WHBQ's Greg Gaston, talking a little Tigers. Greg, good afternoon, man. Appreciate you taking some time with us.
Absolutely. Good afternoon to you, gentlemen. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Hey, for the last 10 days, 2 weeks, it's kind of been said nationally that of all schools in all places, the University of Memphis in Memphis, Tennessee, which, by the way, is east of the Mississippi River, among other things, kind of held the key to where the Pac-12 was going as a conference. One, did you ever feel like that was the case? And two, that said, what was behind ultimately Memphis's announcement yesterday that they will be remaining in the American Athletic Conference going forward?
Well, first, isn't that crazy to think about that? We're talking about teams out on the West Coast and that Memphis holds the key to what they're going to do, trying to revitalize the Pac-12. It's something that is just unfathomable that we're at that point, but that's the way the landscape of collegiate sports has changed over the last decade or so, maybe even less than a decade. And so, yeah, it came down to where Memphis became the linchpin between the American Conference teams, Tulane, South Florida, UTSA, reportedly, along with Memphis. Would they go to the Pac-12 or not? And if they did not, what would the Pac-12 do to try to find more schools to make their conference go? Because you need 8 to have that conference, at least a minimum.
Mm-hmm.
And right now we know, as of going into today, it was 6 with the addition of those 4 schools, which really started this whole thing going, the domino effect led by Boise State. But with Memphis, it really comes down to money, as it always does in sports, whether it's collegiate, whether it's professional. And the deal that Memphis currently is under with the American Conference, whether or not the proposal, if there was one, the speculation, whatever that was that could happen in the future, if that was enough to entice Memphis. But in my opinion, it really never was going to happen because there was nothing concrete that they could offer Memphis at this time. They're still trying to put together a conference, let alone try to negotiate on a media contract with whatever networks it is that they want to negotiate with. Possibly down the road, there could be something that's decent for the revitalized Pac-12. Maybe it's something that's live. You're talking about streaming. You're talking about streaming services. Maybe you're talking about TNT. You're talking about possibly CW. But the fact of the matter is that Memphis is part of an American conference that has a contract through 2031 with ESPN. And we know how powerful ESPN is. So when push came to shove, in my opinion, they could not show Memphis or guarantee Memphis enough money to make that jump, to make it financially relevant for all the new travel expenditures that would come with this. And then also, of course, the buyout to get out of the conference, which was a lot of money. And Memphis was not going to be willing to pay $20 million or more to get out of the conference, to go to uncertainty in a Pac-12 revitalized conference that would still be a group of 5 or group of 6 now conference, as opposed to a power conference. So I don't think this really was I thought it was a no-brainer for Memphis to not make this move at this time.
What's really ironic about the whole situation, Greg, is, for 10, 15 years, maybe, Memphis has been trying to get somewhere, from Conference USA, they were trying to get out to the Big East. From, Conference USA, they were trying to get out to the Big 12. Now they're trying to get the attention of the Pac-12. And then when the opportunity presents itself to actually do so, it's like, forget it.
It's obviously not as simple as that, but you're right. For years now, Memphis has been trying to become a player. They feel that they have an athletic department and programs that are good enough to be worthy of an invite to a power conference. And you know the history. The Big 12, they thought there was a great chance it would happen. Did not happen. They took teams from their conference, left Memphis on the outside looking in. It's happened with several other conferences. Of course, when that Big East thing happened, you thought, okay, well, here's a step up. And then suddenly that dissolved into nothing, into oblivion. And then along came the American Conference. So Memphis, in a lot of ways, becomes the bridesmaid and never the bride. There's still hope that maybe something will happen eventually with the ACC. And we know the legalities going on with Florida State and Clemson, and who knows what will happen with that situation. But there's no guarantee that even if teams do defect, that Memphis would be called upon from the ACC. Maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. So certainly you want to take advantage of any kind of offer from a power conference. The problem is the Pac-12, while it's still a name, right?
It's not a power conference. Yeah. So yeah, that's it was just kind of intriguing when you know the entire backstory to watch that whole situation evolve. But to your point, you kind of feel like this was the best move that Memphis could have made at this time, given the uncertainty of the Pac X, as we like to refer to it.
Exactly. It was the only move they could make. I know it disappoints a lot of people, going back to your point about getting out of the conference they're currently in. But if people look at the totality of this situation and do so with the right mind focused on the finances, they would understand that they just could not do it. It's financial suicide. You're talking about a university that has a lot of different projects going on, including money that they need to match from FedEx for the renovations at Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium. It's another $25 million that they got to come up with. They got all types of projects going on. You cannot afford to pay a huge buyout to leave the conference to go to another conference where you probably will not make as much money as you do currently in the American, and sever your ties with ESPN. It just did not make fiscal sense.
Greg, I'm also curious. I don't want to say reputation-wise, but kind of reputation-wise, where does Memphis come out of this situation? And you kind of alluded to it. It feels like this is probably not the last time we will hear Memphis kind of being talked about as kind of a potential bargaining chip for some conference down the road, right?
Right. Look, they don't want to be the best of the rest. They want to be a part of the big boys. And certainly whenever that opportunity arises, they're going to be in the mix. They're going to stick their nose in there. They've done it before. Unfortunately, it's fallen on deaf ears. They'll certainly try it again. But right now, the best situation for them is this American. They make the most money, this conference, as opposed to the other group of five conferences. They have a solid contract with ESPN through 2031. There's also a look-in from ESPN next year, and people have to understand with the look-in, despite Memphis, or not Memphis, but the American losing the likes of SMU this past year, Houston, Cincinnati, UCF the year prior, the look-in, you cannot take away money. You can't decrease. You can only increase. So the money that they're getting now, which is about 7.5, is steady through the rest of that contract. And there could be more revenue streams with new Commissioner Tim Pernetti, who is very excited. He's a young guy, young mind, brash guy who's going to look down every avenue. He's going to turn every stone over to see if there's more ways to get some revenue in for the conference. But again, you can't take a chance and go somewhere where there's uncertainty. Now, look, do I think that conference would have been better, more competitive? I do. because you get the best from the American, Washington State, Oregon State, and the best from the Mountain West. That's much better than what we have alone with the American. But again, that's the one factor that you would say leave. All the other things say stay, and mainly financially the most important.
And I was going to say, Greg, and then at the end of all this, for all this potential, what's the word I'm looking for? For all this potential, the great unknown, basically, what could have been, do we not kind of just end up basically with the old Mountain West and kind of where we're at? And adding Memphis would have been such a unique component that could have really sprung this in a lot of different directions. And now it just kind of feels like we're just at the end of all this thing in my mind.
Exactly. Look, it would have been a better conference. It would have been easily the best group of 5 conference. Then again, it would be group of 6, or it depends on if the Mountain West survives. But the point is, it would have been a pretty decent conference. But with Memphis leading the way, Tulane, USF, UTSA, they were all in cahoots. Either they were all going or nobody was going, and they decided not to go. So yes, it does look like now what is happening with the Pac-12 and trying to resurrect that once great proud conference, which is really name only now, is the Mountain West, Washington State and Oregon State. I mean, that's what it is. Now, there's still a few more dominoes that have to fall with some of those Mountain West teams. Are they going to stay? They're going to go into the Pac, whatever you guys want to call it. But that's it. It's the Mountain West, basically. Yeah, it's the Mountain West with 2 other schools that were not good enough to go anywhere else, or at least the Big 12, the Big 10, the ACC. Nobody wanted them.
Greg Gaston of Sports 56 WHBQ out of Memphis joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Greg, I covered the Nashville Sounds for years, and they were a member of the Pacific Coast League along with the Memphis Redbirds, and it was just so bizarre, those 2 teams being members of, again, the Pacific Coast League. But one thing that it's being hammered home, geographics mean nothing anymore. And the fact that Memphis was so widely considered, so heavily considered for membership in the Pac-12, I'm not sure really when it all came down how heavily they considered it, but the fact that they were considered for the Pac-12, and again, as you talk about the finances, it's almost like nobody thinks about anything past football or, volleyball, tennis, softball, that kind of thing. And that's kind of where it feels like the finances would really be prohibitive in a move like that.
Yeah, you hit it on the head. You're certainly talking about the non-revenue sports, the Olympic sports, if you will, and all the travel, all the costs that would incur. No question about it that you have to take all that into consideration. But geography is out the window. It has been for a long time. These conferences don't mind going from sea to shiny sea, right? So there's still, geography-wise, it doesn't matter. But the bottom line is the bottom line. And if all of a sudden now your costs go up double, triple, whatever the case may be, well, where's that money coming from? Especially when you don't have any concrete plan on where that money is going to come from in a media deal that the Pac-12 hopes to get down the road. There's just way too much uncertainty.
You almost feel like the best move would be for the Pac and the Mountain West to merge, because apparently Utah State has announced that it is going to the Pac-12, 10, 8, whatever it is, getting them to 7 schools currently for the 2026 school year. But, who else? Because Air Force is also saying that they're staying put in the Mountain West.
It's what they're saying. It's what they're saying. But look, there's no love lost, is there? There's no love lost between these conferences. If the Pac-12 gets their way, they pretty much eliminate the Mountain West. If you eliminate the Mountain West, then all of a sudden those costs will go away for what it will take those teams to have to pay for their exit fees. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of infighting going on. There's a lot of things that come into play. It's really a survival of the fittest, to be honest with you. They might as well have a game show with all the conferences and fight it out, kind of like Survivor. But that's the way it seems it is right now. I just don't see even this Pac-12 slash Mountain West conference. I would still put the American up against it because again, you're not losing Tulane, Memphis, UTSA, and South Florida. I would give the nod a little bit to the Pac whatever because you got Washington State, Oregon State, and Boise, but it's pretty equal. So their thoughts of becoming the best and the most important group of five conference, I don't know about that. And as far as getting autonomy again and all that, look, that boat has sailed. The Pac-12 will never be the Pac-12 again. It will only be the Pac-12 in name.
Thoughts and prayers.
Absolutely. What do you feel like, from having covered this situation, Greg, what do you feel like the next move is for the Pac-12? I mean, is it UNLV now?
They'd love to get UNLV. I don't understand why they didn't try to get UNLV from the start. Maybe they did and it wasn't reported. But look, back in the day, you guys know when it was taboo, Las Vegas was taboo. Now they embrace sports, they embrace gambling. So why not embrace UNLV? You have all these great arenas and stadiums for championship games, and they use them right now. I don't understand why the Pac-12 wouldn't be going right after UNLV ahead of, let's say, Fresno State. It makes no sense to me. But I think it's going to get down to where, look, they have to get at least 8 teams. Utah State would make it 7. They still got to go out and get another one. I don't know if they're stopping at 8. They want more. Now it drops the Mountain West below 8. So they got to go out and get some. You're going to be probably with the Mountain West. I would imagine that the Pac-12 would take a few more from the Mountain West. The Mountain West, to stay afloat, would have to grab a couple of schools like, I don't know, New Mexico State, maybe a couple independents that are out there. There's still a few of them left. And it's also interesting to see what happens with Connecticut. We keep hearing about UConn, and maybe they're going to go after them for football only. I'm talking about the Pac-12. Well, that's ridiculous, in my opinion. UConn would want to stay in the Big East, obviously, for basketball and play football and play out in the Pacific Coast with a school that's on the East Coast. I don't know about that. Gonzaga, possibly basketball only. So these are the things that are out there, rumors, as far as what the Pac-12 and what may happen with the rest of the Mountain West. But for the American, for at least right now, and it doesn't, believe me, this is a polarizing topic. Not everybody's happy about this in Memphis. That includes the public, and that includes journalists as far as their opinions on missing the boat or doing the right thing. I am one to say that I think they did the right thing. But I know it's very disappointing. But right now they are all basically they're all for one. You saw the statements that were made yesterday. I'm sure you read the statements that are yesterday that came out yesterday, that there's solidarity with the teams that remain in the American. Yes, solidarity for the moment until, let's say, something happens in the ACC, and then they would fly out of there in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Are UNLV and Nevada a package deal?
From what I heard, no. I thought they would have been, but there was I don't know if it was a senator or somebody in the political world in Nevada that said that is not the case. Again, I don't know that for certain, but I don't know if they're tied to the hip.
Okay.
Or tied at the hip.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, Greg, real quick, I got to ask you 2 Grizzlies items while we got you here. It's only fitting.
No doubt.
One bit of sad news, one bit of good news. Let's go sad first. Derrick Rose waived after 1 season in Memphis. Is that the end of Derrick Rose in the NBA in your mind?
Yeah, Derrick wanted to get out of that second year. He knew that there wasn't going to be more than likely playing time with what they had and with all the healthy bodies back, knock on wood, for the Grizzlies after last year. So I don't know. Derrick Rose may be looking to seek out another 1-year deal, veteran minimum with a team, maybe to bring that veteran leadership to young players. Maybe there's a team out there that's interested in that aspect of things. But I don't believe there's much left in the tank. He's a great guy. He really is. He's matured over the years as a father, as a husband. I remember him covering him in 2008 when the Tigers made the great run to the national championship game and came up a little short. So I wish him well. It's sad because, again, he came here as a freshman, a young guy, and didn't talk much. All of a sudden, He comes to Memphis as a Grizzly at the end of his career, which included an MVP year, and he's a grizzled veteran, speaks eloquently, very philosophically when he speaks, and just a different person than the kid back in 2008.
Speaking of philosophical entities in Memphis, Tony Allen will have his jersey retired on March 15th, as that news came out today. Maybe not in poetic terms, but he speaks his own language, does the grandfather, right?
Tony does have his own language. Now, this would have been something that was done last season, but you guys probably know about the situation Tony got involved in, and finally he was able to get that all rectified. It was a pretty bad deal. It's a deal that sent Glenn Davis, Big Baby, to jail for several years. So he got involved in that, but it's all cleared up now. The Grizzlies weren't going to do anything while that was going on. Now that it's cleared, there was no question that the grandfather was going to have his jersey retired. So this will be the third of the four, right? So you have Zach Randolph already. You had Marc Gasol last year. You'll have Tony Allen in March coming up of 2025. And then eventually when Mike Conley retires, you'll have him. So the core four will all have their jerseys retired, and rightly so, at FedEx Forum.
If Mike Conley retires.
If he does, yes. He may play till he's 60.
Yeah. Greg Gaston of Sports 56 WHBQ out of Memphis joining us here on Main Street Sports today. He had to ask you a Grizzlies question. I have to ask you a Penny question. Is Penny going to be all right?
Well, this is rough. I've known Penny for a long time, and for Penny to react the way he has in the offseason to the media and basically saying that he thinks the media and the local media are against him. They want him to fail. They're attacking him. I don't buy that. I think he's beloved by everybody in the city, and they want him to succeed. But you have a lot of issues. You have probation. You have this mysterious anonymous letter that came out. You have a team that really disappointed last year after the great start they got out to. There's no reason why that team should have floundered the way they did after really killing it in the non-conference portion of their schedule. So I can't say there's pressure because he is Penny Hardaway. He's beloved. You got a new AD and Ed Scott, and it'd be very interesting to see if they struggled again, would they pull the plug on Penny? But he is going into his seventh season, and one was a COVID year, but only two tournament appearances and one tournament win. It has to be better than that. He likes his team. I think this is a team that's more oriented to play defense, which is more his style. Penny has been talking about defense ever since he took over at Memphis, and he's had some really good defensive teams. Last year was not the case. It was too star-studded. Obviously, they ran into issues, infighting and things of that nature, and the chemistry was out the window. Hopefully, this team will be able to have that cohesiveness and I don't know how good, nobody knows how good this team is. He likes the team. Hopefully this is one that people, look, the expectations are not real high, that they can sneak up on people, get to the tournament, do a little damage, and I think everything will be fine. But if there's problems and if something else comes from this anonymous letter and they don't make the tournament, it could be interesting come springtime.
We don't have time to get into this, but we certainly need to get you back on, because my concern from the moment Penny's name came up in connection with the University of Memphis men's basketball coaching position is what happens when you have to fire your legend?
I was here when Larry Finch was fired. And Larry Finch is another Memphis legend who was a star basketball player like Penny and then became the star coach and had some really good years, a lot of success. And R.C. Johnson, a former AD, fired him. It was unceremoniously. It's well documented behind a popcorn machine, I think it was, and at the old pyramid. And that move was made. And they knew that they had to make the move. And then eventually John Calipari came in. It took a while, took a couple of coaches, and it turned around the fortunes of the program. It's a tough decision to make. I would never want to be in those type of shoes if you have to fire a legend of the city. Hopefully we don't have to go down that road, but certainly it's a lot closer now than it was several years ago. Penny just has to get out there with that team, keep all the distractions away and go out there and get to the tournament. There's no reason why Memphis should not be the conference champions. It's a weak conference. They're a real good program. They should win the conference and get to the NCAA tournament. Anything short is going to be a problem.
Keep the distractions away and not create distractions.
Yeah, he's done an awful lot of that. You know what? But from a media standpoint, I love the fact that we have a coach up until this past off season shoots from the hip. So we get great material because Penny wasn't afraid to speak his mind. You hate coach speak, right? It's just, and most coaches will do that. Penny would say things to a fault, but we certainly had a lot of interesting things when he would meet the media and talk to us because, again, he wasn't afraid to speak his mind. It's gotten him into a little hot water at times, but I want that Penny Hardaway. I still want the guy like that rather than a coach or even a sort of paranoid coach right now, worried that everybody's out to get him.
Absolutely. Greg Gaston of Sports 56 WHBQ joining us. Greg, we appreciate it, man. Look forward to getting you on again sometime. Thanks.
Thanks for the invite, guys. I enjoyed it, and anytime.
All right. Hey, when we continue here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, we'll be talking a little baseball. There's a fairly big series starting tonight down south. So stay tuned when we come back to the Lee Company studios after this.
Do you wanna be a bad man? Yes, you do. Do you wanna taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yes, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue. All right, Columbus Avenue.
Welcome to JHA Company, your trusted scholastic partner. We continue to serve schools with yearbooks, letter jackets, and graduation regalia. But now we offer so much more. Our school photography division offers high-quality images that capture the spirit and energy of your students and staff. Let us help build your identity, creating a cohesive look that represents your school's values and traditions. Our e-commerce solutions make it easy for schools to manage and sell their branded apparel online. Let's work together to make every school year unforgettable. Visit our website or contact us today to learn more. JHA Company, celebrating achievements, building identities, and creating memories.
So Busy Bee is a very close-knit family. We fight just like every family does. We have arguments, but we always come out with a solution to the problems. We don't just fight about what we want, we fight about what customers need. We want to make sure that every customer we go to is more than satisfied. And that doesn't just start whenever we show up at their door, that starts when we show up every day at work. We want to make sure that we are serving our customers to the best of our ability.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com. 24th, 1983, Dale Murphy became the 6th member of the 30-30 Club, and it was not a trivial feat. Murphy drew a one-out walk in the 9th inning, stole second base for the milestone, and following an intentional walk to Chris Chambliss, scored on Rafael Ramirez's base hit for the game-winning run as the Braves walked off the Dodgers 3-2. Murphy joined Ken Williams, Willie Mays, who did it twice, Hank Aaron, Bobby Bonds, who did it 5 times, and Tommy Harper in achieving the feat. That was this day in Braves history. By the way, Murphy finished that season with 30 stolen bases and 36 home runs, and I think he was MVP that year. Not a bad year.
Not a bad season.
Not a bad year
for Mr. Dale.
Absolutely. You know, when you get a lot of times you get those kind of achievements in situations in games that don't mean anything, but he stole that base to get himself in scoring position to win the ball game, and I think it probably means more when it happens like that. So
there probably is an advanced stat somewhere hidden amongst somebody in a basement that they chart that, and tack on. There's a little multiplier that would go there.
It's kind of amazing some of the stats that Elias and those folks can come up with. It's way deeper than I care to go.
There was I don't know if I'll be able to find it, but there was an Ohtani WAR stat from the other night that maybe I can dig up by the end of this segment. Basically smashing records during that crazy 2-game sequence that he had.
Oh, yeah. Again, 6:20 first pitch down at Truist Park. Rubber meets road. Luis Severino getting the ball for the Mets, 11-6 with a 3.79 ERA. Spencer Schwellenbach, 7-7 with a 3.61. And, you know, say what you will about Paul Skeens, but I would guarantee you that this kid has pitched in more important games.
Oh, no doubt.
This season than Skeens has.
No doubt.
And he's getting the ball in a situation here where the Braves are 2 games back of the Mets and the Diamondbacks for the final wild card spot out of the National League. I mean, the fact that they are putting the ball in his hands in such a pivotal, critical, crucial, whatever you want to call it, situation, I think kind of speaks volumes for where he has come since coming up from AA Mississippi, basically earlier this year. So this is a huge one for the Braves. There's no overstating it. They basically have to sweep New York to give themselves some breathing room as Kansas City comes to town this weekend, because as we were talking off air, as crazy as the AL Central has gotten, Kansas City is going to have something to play for this weekend as well.
Yeah, Kansas City and Minnesota, they've been looking in their rearview mirror, and all of a sudden they've gotten lapped. And the Tigers, who now are in the 9th inning with the 2-0 lead, they have jumped all the way into second place. And yeah, it's going to be between the Twins and the Royals in that Central Division for that final spot. So you're looking at Baltimore, unless they just absolutely free fall this and lose basically every game from here on out, which seems unlikely. And then, yeah, the Tigers have pitched their way into this thing and got themselves right there in the mix. And then Atlanta, you know, so are you superstitious, little stitious? Is that the lucky red? I mean, what's your postseason? Because this is basically your postseason starting tonight. So I'm curious, what's your pregame methodology here? Do you get locked in?
I just really wanted to represent. You know, I wasn't thinking about the Tiger Sunday kind of thing, but I mean,
because when we're talking like a World Series, I mean, I'm touching the same doorknob. I mean, I'm going borderline OCD levels. You know, spinning the hat backwards 2 times before your first pitch. I mean, I don't know how deep in the weeds you get. I get pretty deep in the weeds when it comes to postseason baseball. And as we said, Houston basically in the postseason tonight, but Atlanta definitely in the postseason starting tonight.
For sure. You know, back in 21, I did steal some pearls from my other half to wear during the World Series, a la Jock Peterson. So, I mean, I'm not way deep in the superstition, but, you know, if I find something that works, I do stick with it.
Yeah, I was going to say, if they win tonight, whatever they have done, whatever you have done leading up to it, you'll have to try and duplicate, because, yeah, these are the 3 most critical games of the season, which if you win these games and then potentially, you know, you take care of business versus the Royals, I mean, now you're all of a sudden borderline coming into the postseason with momentum
On a little bit of a heater.
and that is something to be leery of because, as you mentioned many times on this show, sometimes you catch a team at the wrong time in the postseason, and bye-bye birdie, as my buddy Chris Bledsoe would tell you, because it is a fickle thing, and if you have the momentum, it can take you a long way in MLB postseason. We've seen it.
Without question. Houston's lead in the AL West falls to 4 games with that 6-1 loss to Seattle last night, but hope springs eternal, and hope for the Astros is Framber Valdez, 14-7 with a 2.85 ERA going to the mound tonight against Logan Gilbert, 8-11, 3.24. Again, that's a 7-10 start out in Houston for that one. And, you know, it would take a bit of an implosion for Houston to not clinch this thing, but at the same time, stranger things have happened.
Stranger things have happened. Baseball is a weird game, and the offense didn't look particularly great last night. Now it looks like Alvarez is going to be out for at least the rest of this series with a bit of an injury concern. You can't be eliminated. You can clinch the division still with the win tonight, or the next day or two. You can't get eliminated tonight. So if you end up even potentially getting swept, it's not the end of the world, but it certainly wouldn't feel good. So I'd love to see them take care of business tonight.
Absolutely. You know, you mentioned Detroit a second ago and their charge into postseason consideration in the American League Central Division. They are not holding anything back. We talked a couple of weeks ago about their minor league pitchers. Columbia Central graduate Jaden Ham is the number 2 pitching prospect in that organization after the year that he had with the West Michigan Whitecaps. Well, the number 1 prospect, Jackson Jobe, got called up. And if they make the postseason, he would be eligible for the postseason roster. He's going to pitch out of the bullpen. 22-year-old, he was their number 1 pick, 3rd overall in 2021 out of high school. He has been at high A, double A, and triple A this season. So he's really made
all the rungs.
All of the rungs. 5-3 with a 2.36 ERA, 96 strikeouts in 91 2/3 innings. That'll play. And that'll play out of the bullpen, and that's the Tigers' plans for him at this point. So they are pulling out all the stops. 82-74, like you said, they are tied for the final 2 spots, and still a lot to do, but they're in a pretty good situation to do it. So,
yeah, they talk about momentum. They're the team that's been. I mean, the White Sox were so bad, but the Tigers were right there at the bottom of that division in 4th place pretty much all season, and then in the last 2 weeks especially, they have skyrocketed. Now that Cleveland has clinched, everybody else is kind of battling and jockeying for that wild card positioning.
Philadelphia defeated the Cubs yesterday 6-2, clinching the NL East, their first division title since 2011. It was pretty inevitable. Philadelphia has been at the top of the NL East since May 3rd. I mean, it wasn't if, it was when, and when was yesterday. So, you know, congrats to the Phillies, and let's see what y'all do with a few days off in the postseason. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports today as we have wrapped up hour number 1 on Top 5 Tuesday. When we return to the Lee Company Studios, we'll be joined by the Blue Raider voice, Chip Walters. And in our final segment, Wade and I will give you our wildest football finishes. So be sure and stick around for that as well. We'll have all of that here in the second hour when we come back after this. Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
So, you want to be a part of the Busy Bee team, huh? Well, how do you see yourself fitting into the organization? Oh, I get it. You want to be a weather bee.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Hour number 2 of Top 5 Tuesday here at Main Street Sports Today is upon us. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We are in the Lee Company studios here on West 7th Street in Columbia, and apparently it's getting a little rough out.
Pretty treacherous out there right now, but it's kind of Heather's going to join us tomorrow for NASCAR. It's kind of doing like a NASCAR like weave almost around Columbia, I think, at the moment.
Okay.
North of us, not as much, but we're kind of ducking and dodging right now.
Okay, so outdoor sports, i.e. girls soccer.
And anybody that's still playing golf. There was a lot of region tournaments that were scheduled for yesterday. If for some reason they had to carry over to today, good luck. Exactly. well said.
We are now joined by the pride of the dimple, the Blue Raider voice, Chip Walters, joining us. And Chip, before we get started on anything football or on your wearying weekend, you again, you're one of our favorite guests because you do send along a cheat sheet. And coming out of
called a rundown. That's called a rundown in the biz.
I got you.
We're learning, Chip.
Be
easy on us.
Coming out of our baseball segment, we were talking a little Detroit Tigers baseball. Their top pitching prospect out of the minor league system, Jackson Jove, has been called up and will be joining the Tigers in Tampa tonight, I believe, which makes me wonder if Jaden Ham is staying loose, because apparently the former Columbia Central standout, the former Blue Raider, has been named Pitcher of the Year out of the Midwest League, the High A Midwest League, where again he pitched for the West Michigan Whitecaps this season. So
who don't actually wear white caps, believe it or not.
How is that?
How does that work?
You know, that's just one of those anomalies in sports.
How do you not?
Do the Red Sox wear red socks?
Maybe. Every now and again.
I bet they do.
I bet somebody does, surely, every now and again.
Or at least red stirrups, you know.
Yeah, that's more what I was thinking.
Yeah, sure. Stirrups, not socks. But yeah, I don't know how they don't. That sounds like a gross oversight on the part of West Michigan to me. But again, congratulations to
Yes.
Jaden. We were fortunate enough to be able to get him on the show a couple of weeks ago. And man, Chip, you've been in this business long enough. Wade has as well. It's so much fun to see good people have good things happen for them. And
No question
Jaden
about
certainly fits that bill.
Yeah, he does. I think about him, and you know, I don't know why Jason Maxwell jumps in my head real quick, but he's one of those guys, and you know, there's a lot of those that have come through the doors of you know, our university, or whether it was you know, in, like, for instance, Jaden being from Columbia. Just, you know, a lot of good folks. There's going to be a lot of good folks recognized on Thursday night, I understand, in Columbia with their big Hall of Fame induction. So
big Hall of Fame induction.
Big Hall of Fame induction.
60 plus.
Oh, wow.
That's right. I believe that must be it's a catch-up year.
I don't know.
Sounds like a catch up of multiple years.
Yeah.
60 plus. Holy
well,
moly.
you know, and you know, it's kind of interesting that, you know, Columbia has only had an athletic Hall of Fame for just a few years, and they, I mean, and they had I was there the night that they had the original class went in that included I can't remember everybody, but I know Lee Fowler was in it. I think Fred Jenkins in it probably. But there's some good ones going in this time. I saw the list the other day. A lot of from all across the board. You know, a lot of folks I went to high school with, and that are very deserving, including one who I put a photo up that our buddy Mike Organ had posted earlier today. It was a picture of Manuel Young back 40 years ago this week, when Vanderbilt beat Alabama. It was where he was had an emotional embrace with George McIntyre right after the game. But for you know, Manuel was one of the all-time all-sport athletes to ever come through Columbia.
And I will tell you that he looks like he could still put on the pads and go play.
Yeah, that is. I know. The last time I saw Manuel, he looked great. I know he'd gone through a little health issue at one point, but has bounced back strongly. But you know, that's looking forward to that coming up. We had our Hall of Fame on Friday night as part of the big weekend, and you know, maybe the biggest attended Hall of Fame induction ceremony we've ever had.
What would you attribute that to, Chip? Was it the Friday night versus Saturday? Was it the class? What would you?
I would say the class. The class had a lot to do with it. And number one, Kermit Davis went in, which brought, you know, I can't tell you how many of his former assistant coaches showed up. I mean, everybody from Donnie Tyndall to Win Case. I mean, from his very first one till the very end, and also guys he worked with and for, like, for instance, Tim Floyd was there.
Oh, wow.
And Tim lives over in Franklin now. And,
really?
And also John Brady, you know, who Kermit was on Brady's staff at LSU. And they were, you know, they were all, they're all part of, they're all kind of in the same coaching tree. They're kind of in Tim Floyd's tree.
Yeah.
And so, but, you know, a lot of former players. Marcus Mason was back. Of course, Reggie was there. But also you had, you had a lot of women's basketball supporters were there for Ebony Rowe, who looks fantastic. Speaking of being able to play, she looks like she could go right now. Marvin Collier, I'm telling you, there was a ton of the Donnelly era players that came back to support Marvin Collier, including Ed Bunio, Alex Robbins. Coach Donnelly was unable to be there that night, but I think we had either 4 or 6 NFL guys who had been in the NFL that were there the other night. Again, you had all the baseball guys were there for Jeff Beecham, and Jamari Lattimore, of course, he was one of those NFL guys. He was one who went in. So you had kind of a perfect storm with the class that went in. We moved this to Friday night a couple of years ago, and it's gone really well on Friday night of homecoming. And I think one of the other part of it is making it part of homecoming weekend and not a separate weekend, because it fits, it dovetails right in to having the ceremony on Friday night. They're out there in the parade on Saturday morning. They have time to tailgate and then get recognized at the football game. And from all indications, all of the inductees put in their time from into the wee hours of the night on both nights, and all of them had a great time from all indications on their trip back here, which is terrific. You want them to come back and have a great time, and it really was a great weekend for them.
Absolutely, you do. What I took out of that, everything that you just said over the last 3 or 4 minutes, is Tim Floyd lives in Franklin, and as a Franklin native, as a Franklin resident,
It'll be on the hunt now.
It never ceases to amaze me why these people are here. I mean, people who have no real reason to be in Franklin are in Franklin. Stop it.
I think it ends up, his daughter, whoever she married, they ended up in the Nashville area for work. And so Tim, after he was done coaching, really had no specific place he needed to land. So,
and if there are grandchildren involved,
that was the next thing. I'm not sure if there are, but I would say there's a good chance there are, and that's why. And
changes everything.
That's right. And plus, as we all well know, you can get anywhere pretty quickly from this area through BNA.
Absolutely. So, your assignment is to get us Tim Floyd's contact information so we can get him on the show.
Let's see here if I've got it. I think I may have it.
Okay, good.
So do it on my cell reception. We might be able to get that done.
Yeah, have your people call my people. Absolutely. Chip, we talk about all of this in an effort to not talk about the football game.
It was. And this is going to sound crazy, but even in the loss to Western Kentucky, and there are things you can pull out of both of those games, the Western game, the Duke game, that this team is doing better at. They are progressing. What they did not do well Saturday was take care of the football.
No, they did not.
When you have 4 turnovers inside your own 25-yard line that led directly.
3 in the first quarter.
3 in the first quarter, which the 4 total led directly to 28 points. And then you add to that a roughing the punter call when you had them backed up at the 16 and allowed them to continue on a drive where they scored another touchdown. So you gifted them 35 of their 45 points, and 28, were absolute gift wrapped. Those are things you just cannot afford to do. When you're a team that is trying to find its way right now with a new staff, new bunch of players, you have kind of a razor's thin edge of mistakes to be made, and with the injuries that you've had to suffer too as well. But I thought, where did they make where did they make some progress? And here's the part that sounds crazy. I thought they were much better defensively, even though they give up 45. But again, take into account that 28 of those came on drives of 24 yards or less, and 1 on a drive of 1 yard. But they they did a good job there, and got better. They got better tackling. They ran the football better on the offensive side. Flip Cradle has kind of found a home as the number one running back. So there's some things that happened there. Duke just was not a team. I'm not sure I would say that they're overly gifted, player wise, but what they are gifted with is the ability to play without making mistakes. And they did not make mistakes. And like a very good hitter in baseball, when a pitcher makes a mistake, they take advantage of it. And they made Middle pay dearly for every mistake they had. Now, if you're coaching, you correct your mistakes and you go to what is next, and that is a matchup with Memphis, who it's going to be interesting to see what the attitude in Memphis is this week after the Tigers lost. They were averaging giving up less than 10 points a game and gave up 56 at Navy last Saturday. So, I mean, and obviously Navy is a unique animal when you're having to defend them. And Navy's pretty talented this year. They're off to a good start. So, but Memphis didn't handle the option well. And so their defense got a little bit exposed. But they did put a lot of points on the board. They were in the 40 plus against Navy. So Seth Hennigan, their quarterback, has been pretty efficient. Here's your tidbit of the day. Seth Hennigan and Nick Vattiato were roommates at the Manning Passing Academy this summer. So a little familiarity. A little familiarity there. And I'm sure they knew that they were going to be facing each other this year. So, Memphis, are they going to have their dauber down, or are they going to be mad or whatever? Because, also they got kind of their fan base was all jazzed up, thinking they were getting ready to be part of the pack, whatever. And whatever they are this hour, and that did not happen, and they are remaining in the American, and so apparently the fan base is ill in Memphis. So I don't know what that means for, what are we going to have at the Liberty Bowl on Saturday night? I don't know. We'll see.
I saw the tweet that said, how do we go from beating Florida State one week to getting outran by Sailors the next week? I mean, it was a wild 10 days or so for Memphis. But you're right. I'm kind of not real sure where their psyche is coming into this game. I guess the real question is, how does MTSU shake off Ole Miss, Western Kentucky, and then the loss to Duke all in a row? I mean, that is a murderer's row to start the season.
Right. I mean, this is something we've talked about since, back in July.
Yeah, we saw this coming from a while away, right?
Yeah. You how do you maneuver through this and get to? I've just called it the gauntlet, and in Memphis, I think. People were wondering, okay, how, they've proven that they have a lot of ability, and that Ryan Silverfield has done he took over from Mike Norvell and has, really not let up an ounce. They have explosive. They can be very explosive on offense. And talking to Coach Mason yesterday on a couple of occasions, it's interesting. He and Ryan Silverfield had offices across the hall from each other when they were both on staff with the Vikings. So they are very close. Coach Mason says that Ryan is one of the best line coaches he's ever been around, and that, and whether it's offense, while with the Vikings, Ryan was an assistant on the offensive line and the defensive line. He's been on both sides of it, so he's pretty well versed. They do a good job of getting players out in space. So you're going to have to, again, continue to get better tackling and be better in the open field, because, I mean, gosh, you think back years and years and years, Memphis has had either receivers or running backs that can get out in space and do some things. And this is a big week for everybody. For middle, if you can go down and grab a win there, that certainly is a nice springboard going into the meat of your conference schedule for sure, and going into what I call a mini bye, because you don't play for 11 days or 12 days after you play Saturday.
And Chip, I guess another question, we kind of have addressed Psyche. Also, just I guess if nothing else, I felt for you Saturday. Props to you. You've now battled through not one but 2 weather delays this season. So kudos to you and the staff, and 2 weather delays of significant time as well.
Yeah, we have had total weather delays of 4 hours and 21 minutes now, which is equal to another full game.
Mm-hmm.
We had 1 hour and 42 minutes on Saturday. And so that one came obviously in the third quarter, and not only did we have, it was stopped and everybody saw some clouds around, but obviously lightning is what stops it. But we got about 10 minutes of really heavy rain, but that system just kind of sat on top of us for a little while, and now. And then you come back and I think both teams kind of picked up right where they left off. You didn't see either one of them all of a sudden get way better or way worse. It just kind of middle had kind of stabilized itself a little bit before that. And, and really once they came back, 5 minutes and whatever, 5:28, I think, left in the third. I mean, the outcome was really no longer in doubt at that point. And I think both teams wanted to make sure they got out of there, played it pretty close to the vest, and that one ended, and Duke flew on back home, and Middle started getting ready for Memphis.
Chip Walters, the Blue Raider voice, joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, as he does on most Tuesdays. Basketball practice for both the Blue Raiders and the Lady Raiders has officially started, and both of them went into basketball practice with some good news.
That's right. October 15th has come early. Used to be we all used to have October 15th circled on our calendars, because that was the day. That was the day you got to start basketball practice. Now it's kind of a year-round thing, but they can officially. Yesterday was the day across the country, September 23rd, that you could start real practice, meaning
with the entire team.
The entire team, but also at normal practice hours per week. Like the month or so prior, you could have 4 hours a week. Now you're back to your kind of 20 hour week deal. And I went over and watched them a little bit on Sunday afternoon. Actually, Sunday was the day they could start, and watched them there. And the women, they had their first official practices as well. They've gotten a couple of nice commitments. One from Spain. She is 6'10". 6'10". And
Nicole Dominguez, remember the name.
And
Wimby, female version.
She is from the island of Tenerife, and she gets her size naturally. Her mom is 6'6", and then there was another young lady who was in last week who made a commitment as well on social media, and I just don't have her name in front of me, but it was one they were certainly happy to get. And the men's team got a commitment today, or last night actually, from Charvez Ambrose, who went to Bartlett High School and is currently at Walter State Community College.
Yeah.
He is a really rangy 6'5" guard, and looking forward to him. I had a chance to meet him when he was in on his visit last week, and really a nice kid, and I think excited to be part of the Blue Raiders.
I'm trying to find the other young lady by scanning through at @MInsel on Twitter, but oh, here we go. No, that's Nicole.
I'm just watching 6'10" Nicole Dominguez highlights over here.
I understand why you would. No, Kirsten Verhulst.
There you go.
From a 5'8" guard from DeSoto, Kansas.
Well, the other one I was looking at, Jenna McClendon from Deatsville, Alabama, a 6'4" forward.
Oh, okay. So they've got 3 then.
Yep.
Okay. All right. It's a nice way to get practice started.
That's right. And it was they've everybody's been both teams have been active on the recruiting trail, and they've brought kids in on football weekends and all of that, and it seems to be the excitement that you were on campus over the weekend. Have you been out in the Grove and seen all the stuff going on out there? So it's been a great atmosphere, and that's not only is it helping helping the football atmosphere, but obviously that's paying off for other sports too, and they're bringing in kids to recruit on those big weekends.
Absolutely. Are they not bringing them through the radio booth to visit with the Blue Raider voice while they're making those visits?
No, if you've been in our booth, it's a little tight in there during the games, but everybody kind of gets their own spot and kind of stays in it. But they don't bring them through there. But they're always welcome, as are you. And I noticed you were posting over the weekend from your perch there with on Millionaires Row.
Something like that. Yeah, no, I did spin through Coach Insel's box for a second, but I also took a couple minutes to visit with Bud Morris up in his box, and had not seen him in a while, and just wanted to get with him and wish him well on some things that he's dealing with right now. And and then I did make my way down to the far end zone for a little bit. So it was a good day. It was a good day. The outcome notwithstanding. So hoping to get back over there here another weekend soon. But Chip Walters, the Blue Raider voice, the pride of the Dimple, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, again, as he does on most Tuesdays. Chip, we appreciate it, man.
Thank you, fellas. And I will I'll join you next Tuesday from Points South.
Okay, sounds good. We look forward to it. We appreciate it. We will look forward to that visit from Points South. We'll catch you then.
And I'm this is for Helene. Go that way. Go that way.
Steer clear, right?
Yeah,
right.
we got to keep Helene out of Atlanta for the next few days as well, because we got some baseball games to win. So yeah, absolutely.
Hey, real quick, Chip, this our top 5 is going to be the wildest football finishes. Real quick, and I left the Hail Mary Malcolm Bey game early. I'm sad to admit that. As an undergrad, I left that game early. But what is the wildest MTSU finish you have called in your mind?
Oh, well, I don't know. You're talking about the Joe Craddock to Malcolm.
That was the Hail Mary on the first ever blackout on a Thursday night.
That's right. Against FAU.
Yep.
And Howard Schnellenberger. That was, well, I'm going to say, and this is going to be not going to be one that I called, but I was at as far as a middle game. This would have been 1984 Division I AA playoff football at Indiana State in the third overtime, where Middle blocks an extra point to win in triple overtime and advance on to the national semifinals. They end up winning that game 42-41, but it was a sudden victory in Middle that day. On the 5 previous extra points had ran a middle block up the middle. Their attempt to block the extra point had come from the middle. So, I should say, yes. And then what ended up happening was, or I should say that Indiana State tried to do that, but they brought a guy from the edge who ran right into the arms of a waiting, or they tried to go for two actually, and to win it in the third overtime. And Middle had changed their block from a middle block to an outside block. So Middle had done it up the middle, up the middle, up the middle. And Indiana State said, well, they're coming up the middle. We're going to run this 2-point play or fake an extra point and run the wide receiver kind of on a jet sweep motion and flip it to him. And as soon as he did, Dennis Mix or somebody was just standing right there, and the guy ran right into his arms, and that ended the game, and Middle won it and went on to the semifinals the next week against Louisiana Tech. So
yeah, and that didn't go so well, unfortunately.
I mentioned the Hail Mary. I did leave that game early, Chip, but you will be proud. I did go to the Vanderbilt game and stay the whole time when Weaver blocks the field goal.
That's one too. You're right. You're right on that one. Boy,
I was in the Vanderbilt student section, and believe it or not, they had fans there at that time.
I know
they had high hopes with Jay Cutler back then.
Yeah, those Vandy Middle games.
Get our shots in when we can.
Those were very, very well attended, and obviously there's some basketball games in there as well. They all kind of start running together a little bit, but once you start thinking about them, they all start popping back up. But yeah, that's a good top 5 right there.
Should be interesting. Chip, we appreciate it. Stay dry. We'll talk to you.
Thank you, boys. Appreciate it.
All right. Hey, when we come back to the Lee Company Studios here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia, it is the grab bag. We're going to get into a little WNBA, a little college football, and whatever else we can come up with. So stick around and see what we do come up with. We'll be right back.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers. Putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
He shoots, and he scores!
Top 5 Tuesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. In our next segment, our final segment, we will be bringing you Top 5 Tuesday, our wildest football finishes. So stick around for that. Right now, though, it's the grab bag as the WNBA postseason continues tonight with a pair of opening round games, both games two, I don't know. The Dream plays at the top seeded Liberty. Excuse me. Seattle is at 4 seed Las Vegas. The hosts both hold the edge in these best of 3 series, having won on Sunday. So the Liberty looking to close out the Dream. The Aces looking to close out Seattle, as our buddy Willie G. Ramirez told us yesterday. If anybody forces a game 3, he's expecting it to be the Storm. And, I think he's probably right. I mean, you've got the Sun and the Fever tomorrow, and you've got the Lynx and the Mercury tomorrow. And, Indiana might pull something off, but I kind of doubt it. But Seattle has given the Aces enough problems over the course of the regular season that you feel like if any of the lower seeds is going to break through, it's probably going to be them.
I would say that's probably correct. And we said as much kind of a Willie yesterday. I mean, at the end of the day, the WNBA is still growing. And for all the leaps and bounds and strides that they have made, even in a best of 3 playoff series, there's not a lot of room for parity and there's not a lot of room for upset. So it kind of is no real surprise that the 4-5 matchup is the one that figures to be the most competitive. But it also, to that point, said it for the last 2 weeks, that's why Seattle was desperately trying to flip-flop and get up to the 4 spot, because having that advantage is massive. Getting those first 2 at home, going to Seattle, hypothetically, there would have been huge. As it sits, though, I would not be shocked, if this is all chalk. And then, we'll maybe reassess. There is no reseeding, so we'll just play just like straight through in the second round and see what happens. I would not be shocked if our 2 favorites both win tonight.
Yeah, and you talk about Seattle being the favorite, or being the most likely at the same time. The Aces, again, are your 2-time defending champions.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's almost like that's kind of gotten forgotten a little bit.
I mean, they're the defending champs, and it was wild seeing Mark Davis. Crazy Sunday for him. The Raiders get absolutely embarrassed, and then a few hours later, he's on the sideline he's got the rally towel going. I mean, I was like, what kind of world are we living in? Just having a big time. But, I mean, when you're a billionaire like that, I guess you can have you can pick and choose what you decide to get excited about. And but you're right. They have had such a weird up and down season, and Seattle is talented enough to pull it off. But, man, I got a tough time seeing them pulling the strings. Liberty are favored by 12.5 tonight. Vegas is favored by 7.5.
That sounds about right. Not only did Tennessee defeat Oklahoma in Norman 25-15, but they also forced a change at quarterback as Michael Hawkins Jr., who came off the bench in that game Saturday night, will replace Jackson Arnold. I think I kind of mentioned it on a couple of occasions last week. I had not been overly impressed with Jackson Arnold to this point. Apparently, Brent Venables hadn't been either. So Michael Hawkins Jr. will get the start against Auburn this weekend. 11 of 18 for 132 and a touchdown, 22 rushing yards, which was a team high in that 10-point loss at home to Tennessee in their Southeastern Conference debut.
Yeah, interesting shakeup, and I think Hawkins, we had joked about a little bit to an extent that there's a quarterback controversy. And our good buddy Anwar Richardson had a great video last week. He compared. I mean, he said Arch Manning and Arnold is maybe the future, but they're not ready just yet.
Mm-hmm.
And there were way less expectations, way less pressure on Arch because obviously you got Ewers.
Right.
Arnold is the guy, and so if anybody was going to step up and fit that bill, it would have been him this season. And they have pulled the plug, ironically, versus Auburn. So buckle up. It'll be the battle of whichever quarterback can show up and make plays for either team. Will have a chance to win that game on Saturday.
Absolutely. Auburn will be going with QB2 as QB1 this weekend
just pull the lottery, pull the slot machine and just see which quarterbacks show up for those two teams.
Former Lipscomb Academy quarterback Hank Brown expected to get the start against Oklahoma after Peyton Thorne has been benched, although Brown threw 3 picks in that Arkansas loss this past weekend, and Auburn went back to Thorne in the second half. So, this one might be your box of chocolates game.
That's what I'm saying. Whoever
you're going to get,
give me the 4 quarterbacks. Hopefully, no more than 4, and whichever one of those 4 play the best for either team has got the best shot to win because it is going to be ugly. I mean, Hugh Freeze, he's been in the headlines. It has been a rough situation at Auburn. You should try coming to the Pulaski Citizen Studios and sit next to Scott Stewart these days. It's not very fun working with an Auburn boss right now because things are bleak, things are dire. But if they can somehow stun Oklahoma this weekend, I don't know that they will, but if they can stun Oklahoma, maybe they get back on the right track. That's going to be an ugly game with in terms of quarterback play.
There is a former quarterback who we are both familiar with, you more so than I, who was on one Saturday night.
Oh yes. Yeah. Former Giles County and Ole Miss QB Bo Wallace is he went off the deep end. We could run those on Wild and Wacky Wednesday
we probably
tomorrow.
Can't.
Maybe. If producer Mark loses power, he won't know what we're doing, and we can just run it and not tell him otherwise. But yeah, Auburn is in a bad spot. Hugh Freeze desperately needs a win. It almost feels like a small blessing in disguise that they get the backup quarterback. But Hawkins has played so well. It's almost like Arnold didn't flat out lose this, but it's like Hawkins came in and played so well that, hey, we got to give him a shot and see what happens.
Absolutely.
Whereas Auburn feels a little bleaker in their situation.
Yeah. We mentioned yesterday as we were talking about James Madison in North Carolina that James Madison's former coach, Kurt Cignetti, has Indiana off to a 4-0 start after their win this weekend over Charlotte. Well, he is the first Indiana coach to start 4-0. So congrats to the Hoosiers coach, which is where Columbia Central defensive tackle Jaravius Hall has committed, by the way. So Indiana is the first FBS team to have scored 200 or more points this season, which you would have thought that might have been UT, but scored 31 against FIU, 77 against Western Illinois, 42 against UCLA, and 52 against Charlotte. So
they are playing well, and
a juggernaut.
It's the best their offense looks since back when Randall L was playing for them. They have been balling. And I mean, they got Maryland this week. They got Northwestern next week. They got a home game versus Nebraska. Their schedule, they benefit from the new crazy Big Ten schedule more than anybody. They don't play anybody ranked until the final 2 weeks of the regular season. They do get Michigan and Ohio State back-to-back weeks. But, I mean, Indiana could potentially be sitting there at 8 or 9-0 by the time they meet one of those two teams.
Okay, so here's the next question. If that happens, does Cignetti bounce again?
I mean, perhaps.
Indiana, with all due respect, is not necessarily a destination job in college football, right?
No. And yeah,
and Tom Allen probably should have bounced and didn't, and we see what happened to him. So
yeah, I would not be. I mean, if they somehow
get into the playoffs,
yeah, if they beat Michigan, Ohio State, and get into one of the two and get into the playoff, then yeah, I mean, all bets are off. I mean, take Hugh Freeze's job if he gets fired. I don't think he would be in the mix for the Florida job. But I mean, Florida is going to be so desperate for offense, maybe. I mean, kind of who knows, right? I mean, but yeah, you raise a great point, because as great of a season as that is, Indiana is not really a destination job.
It's not a destination job, and you wonder how sustainable it is.
Correct.
Yeah. Friday night, Illinois defeated Nebraska 31-24, and that game took on some additional meaning for Illinois defensive coordinator Aaron Henry, whose sister had died in the days leading up to that game at the age of 39. She survived by 4 children. He left the team after that win to go to Florida for her funeral, and he made the comments, I guess, on social media afterwards. Last night, I didn't want the game to end. As excited as I was that we got the win in a complete team effort, part of me didn't want to have to face the reality of heading home during the season to lay my sister to rest. I mean, football, as it so often is for so many of us, was a little bit of an escape for Aaron Henry. And obviously, thoughts are with him and his family at this difficult time. But man, that's obviously a big win for them for a number of reasons. So,
huge win for them. They got to go to Penn State. That's going to be a big game this weekend.
Reggie Bush versus everybody.
Oh,
yeah. The former Southern Cal Heisman Trophy winner, which has been restored, is suing his alma mater, the NCAA, and the Pac-12 over use of his name, image, and likeness. Imagine that.
Yeah. Man, talk about, for a player that feels like there were a couple players just feels like, man, they were in the wrong era, unfortunately, and him especially. That is a tough situation there for Reggie, who at least finally is somewhat, hopefully getting kind of his just due there, as it were.
Yeah. Have you seen the is it Nissan that does the Heisman Trophy commercials?
I think so. Heisman House.
Yeah. He's featured in a couple of those. I think in one he's kind of coming out of like a cryogenic type of.
No, I can't recall having seen that one just yet.
Yeah.
I'll keep my eyes peeled because, man, that's a tough situation. Like I said, he kind of got a raw deal, unfortunately.
As things evolved, absolutely he did. It's unfortunate. So yeah, he is seeking compensation for the use of his name, image, and likeness while he
More
was
on Reggie Bush later. It's a spoiler alert.
On that note, let's take a break before we come back for the final segment of Top 5 Tuesday, which is Top 5 Tuesday, as Wade and I will bring you our wildest football finishes. Stay tuned after this break.
So, you want to be a part of the Busy Bee team, huh? Well, how do you see yourself fitting into the organization? Oh, I get it. You want to be a weather bee.
Do you want to be a bad man? Yes, you do. Do you want to taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yes, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on
Welcome back to the Lee Company studio here on West 7th Street in Columbia as we bring you the final segment of the day here on Top 5 Tuesday on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. Again, it's the final segment of Top 5 Tuesday, which means it's time for Top 5 Tuesday, presented by Mid-South 5 Fitness. Two great locations, one in Franklin, one in Columbia. Whatever shape it is you're in, Dallas Steele will get you in a better one. You can find him at Steel Athletes, STEEL athletes.com. Dallas Steele. He's that dude. Top 5 wildest football finishes. And for whatever reason, I gravitated toward college. I'm sure that there are some pretty wild NFL finishes as well, but mine were strictly of the collegiate variety. So with that said, Mr. Neely,
yeah, I was getting ready to. I was trying to think the craziest Giles County finish that we've ever had, and there have been some interesting games. There's games that the wildest finish has been like the semifinal versus Tresvant one year that ended on a sack. Basically, I mean, there haven't been any just insane off the wall finishes. We did see saw Mount Pleasant and Summertown this week end at. They go for the tush push and come up empty in overtime. It was, but yeah, none of those. I kind of gravitated toward college. And yeah, let me get kick-started with, the kick six. I had like 10 people at my house to watch this game, and 9 out of the 10 were rooting for Auburn, and none of them were Auburn fans. They just didn't like Alabama. I had one buddy, shout out to T. Spivey at Cardin Distributing in Pulaski, the lone Alabama fan, and he just sat there, didn't say a word, and then quietly gathered his things and left. The kick six, one of the wildest finishes, regardless of sport, and one that Nick Saban probably still wakes up in cold sweats about every now and again.
1991, they call it the Miracle at South Bend. Tennessee came back from a 31-7 deficit at Notre Dame. It was to the point that I have a good friend who made us turn it off. I mean, we were having a watch party and it's like either turn it off or I'm leaving. So we turned it on another game, and then we saw on the scroll that UT was coming back from
wait a second,
31-7 deficit. It's like, can we turn it back on, Kevin? So Tennessee goes up. Notre Dame has a field goal to win it. To tie it, I believe. Jeremy Lincoln somehow blocked the field goal with his derriere to preserve a 34-31 win, thus earning the title Miracle at South Bend for the Vols. That's my number 1.
Good pick there. My number 2, I've seen quite a few Michigan debacles in my life, but Michigan State 2015, I got to have it on my list just because, I mean, it's part of the fabric of my identity. I mean, if you can survive Michigan absolutely on the blocked punt, and then they don't have the return set up correctly to push the guy out of bounds, Michigan State wins. That was in Harbaugh's second year, I believe it was, and things were not good. Michigan losing to Michigan State 2015, the miracle for the Spartans, as it were, there. Blunder in the big house, as it's formerly known.
I'm going to double up on UT. 2016 versus Georgia. We were talking yesterday about Jawan Jennings. It's kind of ironic. Comes up with the Hail Mary from Josh Dobbs in the end zone. Still kind of mind-boggling that he was able to go up and make that catch. But Tennessee 34, Georgia 31. Back in 2016.
Crazy game. Times were wild back in. We thought, brick by brick, you could reach Tennessee. And at least on that day, my man dropped to his knees. The coach, that is. I ain't talking about the players.
No.
Lyle dropped to his knees after that. And we thought, that was
Lyle, the trumpet player.
That was going to be a game that you thought would set Tennessee in motion. And crazy that we sit here in 2024, the year of our Lord, and Tennessee is just rolling and mauling teams on the road like they did this past week.
And what are they? 2 coaches removed
Yes.
So.
Wow. Up next for me, one of the plays that I didn't see this play live. I wasn't even born then, as a matter of fact. But the Hail Flutie is one of the early games and early plays that I kept seeing on highlights. And I was like, man, I kind of wish I'd have been around for this. And at the end of the day, Boston College is 7-2 and Miami is 8-3. But it's an iconic play. And the Hail Flutie in '84 is one that I put on my list.
Absolutely. Recency bias, maybe, but it won a national championship. What was it? 2nd and 26, was it? When backup quarterback Tua Tagovailoa and Devontae Smith hooked up for a 41-yard touchdown pass that won Alabama yet another national championship over Georgia in overtime back in 2018.
At the Rose Bowl, I believe, right?
I believe so. That was about as stunning as it gets. I mean, you just came up with a sack to force again. What? 2nd and 26.
Mm-hmm. And
no thing.
The beginning of Tua, yeah. I mean,
absolutely.
In his journey there.
And the end of Jalen Hurts.
And the end of Hurts, at least in Bama terms, for sure.
Right.
Up next for me, again, this is a game, and this is a wild one from '82. The teams are 5-5 and 6-4, but Stanford Cal is the all-time wildest finish, perhaps. The fact that the video is kind of that old early '80s grainy footage, and the band is on the field.
The band is on the field.
I mean, the trombone player gets tattooed in the end zone, multiple laterals. I mean, just insane. A wild, wild finish for one of the ACC's greatest rivalry games as we sit here in
Stanford and
2024.
Cal. There we go.
If they meet in the championship, will still be played in Charlotte. So I'm all in on Stanford and Cal both meeting. Both are 1-0 in conference play. I'm both hoping that happens.
Will they be playing that play in their montage at the ACC championship?
Well, they will.
Goodness gracious!
I mean, you got to lean into your heritage, right?
No question.
Yeah, crazy from '82.
The band is on the field. My number 4, real quick, the Bluegrass Miracle.
Oh yeah.
LSU beating Kentucky on what looked like the final play of the game, an incomplete pass that Kentucky had knocked down. Instead, Devery Henderson pulls the ball out of the air and streaks into the end zone to give the Tigers a victory there.
One of the all-timers there, and I believe that was a JP Sports game. I mean,
I believe you're right.
Crazy game, wild finish. One that will live certainly in SEC lore forever. I mentioned we would come back to Reggie Bush. Give me the Bush push from 2005. This was a game in the middle of the season that felt like a heavyweight slugfest. Notre Dame comes out in the green jerseys. Charlie Weiss has got them rolling. Pete Carroll has got USC undefeated. And it comes down to the Bush push at the end. A crazy, crazy turn of events that was technically an illegal play, but technicalities be darned, and oh well, sorry about your luck, Notre Dame. USC moves on.
Well, I mean, anytime one of those goes against Notre Dame instead of for Notre Dame, it's like USA, right?
Absolutely.
So there you go. My number 5 is the 5th down. Missouri had stopped Colorado back in 1990, and then the marker didn't get flipped. Colorado gets an extra down. Colorado scores. Colorado beats Missouri in, I guess, Big 8 play back in 1990. So
that was the Buffs national championship year.
That's right, when they tied with Georgia Tech. Yeah, or they shared it with Georgia Tech. That's going to do it for Top 5 Tuesday. Again, brought to you by Mid-South 5 Fitness. 2 great locations, one in Franklin, one in Columbia. That's going to do it for Main Street Sports today here on this Top 5 Tuesday. Be sure to come back to us tomorrow at 2 o'clock right here. We'll see you then.